Welcome to our channel. Let's begin the journey.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going to unpack the physics behind the infamous Soviet RBMK reactor and discover exactly how a really fatal engineering choice led to the disaster at Chernobyl. We're going to skip the historical drama and focus purely on the science, using the original mechanical designs and physics principles to understand exactly what went wrong under the hood. To kick things off, I want you to consider this mystery. What actually happens to the atomic chain reaction when the cooling water in a reactor core boils away or drains out? Now, your intuition probably tells you that without water, a reactor just overheats and melts down, right? But as we'll see, depending on how you've engineered your core, losing that water can actually trigger something much, much worse than a simple meltdown. So here's our roadmap for the day. First, the engine, nuclear fission. Second, controlling the chain reaction. Third, comparing reactor designs. Fourth, the Soviet RBMK reactor. And finally, the deadly void coefficient. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the engine, nuclear fission. Let's pop the hood, shall we? In a classic uranium-235 fission chain reaction, a single, slow-moving neutron strikes a nucleus. That nucleus gets unstable and violently splits apart, releasing a massive amount of heat. But, critically, it also spits out more fast-moving neutrons, which then go on to strike other uranium atoms, keeping the whole cycle going. Here is the crucial point, though. This fission process needs thermal, or slow-moving neutrons to keep propagating efficiently. The problem is, the neutrons flying out of a split atom are initially moving way too fast to be easily absorbed by the next uranium atom. So this means, as engineers, we literally have to design a way to purposefully slow those newly released super-fast neutrons down so they can actually continue to fuel the reaction. Moving right along to Section 2, controlling the chain reaction. So every functioning reactor is basically doing a crazy balancing act with four main parts. The fuel, like enriched uranium, gives us the power. The moderator, which could be water or solid graphite, acts like a traffic cop, slowing the neutrons down to maintain the chain. The coolant, usually water, flows through the core to carry all that intense heat away to spin the electrical turbines. And finally, the control rods. These are the brakes. Drop them into the core and they swallow up neutrons to choke out the reaction. But as we'll see, the design of these brakes is absolutely critical. The Soviets made a fatal mechanical choice here. They tipped their emergency shutdown rods, known as AZ5, with solid graphite. Now, just to give us a safety baseline, let's look at a standard Western-style pressurized water reactor. Notice how everything is safely contained together in a single vessel. Ordinary light water fills the core and is essentially doing double duty. It's the coolant carrying heat away, and it's also the moderator, slowing the neutrons down. Which brings us to Section 3, comparing reactor designs. Okay, take a look at this comparison chart. You'll probably spot the glaring anomaly right away. Standard pressurized water and boiling water reactors use ordinary light water for both cooling and moderating. The Canadian CANDU uses heavy water for both. But the Soviet RBMK uniquely separates these functions. They use ordinary light water to cool the system, but completely separate solid blocks of graphite to moderate the neutrons. And that perfectly sets up Section 4, the Soviet RBMK reactor. Think about it this way. In a standard light water reactor, the water is both your engine's transmission and its coolant. If you lose the water, you lose the ability to slow neutrons down, which means the fission process naturally stops. Simple and safe, right? But in the RBMK, these two vital functions are completely isolated from one another. The nuclear fuel sits inside vertical pressure tubes where the cooling water flows, but those tubes are entirely surrounded by a gigantic, totally separate structure of solid graphite blocks that do all the moderating. Which brings us to the climax, Section 5, the deadly void coefficient. So, when liquid water heats up and boils into steam, it becomes less dense, right? It creates these empty pockets or voids of gas. Well, the coolant void reactivity coefficient is simply a metric. It just measures how those empty bubbles affect the speed and power of the nuclear chain reaction. Here is where things get truly terrifying. Standard reactors have a negative void coefficient. If water boils into steam, they lose their moderator, and the reaction safely dies out. But the RBMK? It has a positive coefficient. If its cooling water boils away, the solid graphite moderator is still sitting right there. The fission rate violently spikes. And remember that fatal mechanical flaw we mentioned earlier? When the operators finally hit the AZ5 emergency shutdown button, those graphite-tipped control rods entered the core first. Instead of breaking, those graphite tips instantly displaced water in the lower part of the core, adding even more reactivity. They didn't act as brakes, they literally acted as a detonator. The sources note that before the disaster, the RBMK had a staggering positive void reactivity coefficient of 4.7 beta. At 4.7, losing cooling water didn't just fail to shut the reactor down, it turned the core into a runaway thermal train. As water boiled to steam, reactivity surged uncontrollably. And when they finally hit those flawed AZ5 emergency brakes, it pushed that surging reaction way past the point of no return, resulting in a completely catastrophic explosion.
So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. The RBMK was designed to be immensely powerful and efficient, but to do that, it structurally decoupled the coolant from the moderator, creating an incredibly deadly positive feedback loop. When human engineering actively subverts the natural, self-regulating safety mechanisms of atomic physics just to increase output, what are the ultimate risks we are truly taking on? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the big questions.
The view from here is breathtaking. Command, we are in position and ready for the next phase. If you liked the video, subscribe and comment the topic you want next. Thanks for watching, and stay unstoppable.